Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another regular episode of the Road to Avatar 2 podcast. Except this is not a regular episode by any means, because we have finally reached the end of the long, winding road and arrived at Avatar 2, The Way of Water. I'm here with Michael.
This does not feel real right now.
This does not feel real.
We haven't really even spoke since either of us saw this movie.
We have not spoken at all about the film. We immediately jumped into podcasting mode.
Yeah, I was just sitting here like, I'm just bottling up everything. Yep. He doesn't know anything about. Oh, do we want to do any more opening little bits? Little sentences.
Okay. We'll give a little, I mean, it's been such a long build-up. Let's tease it a little bit. This has been such a journey. Avatar, of course, came out in December of 2009. That was before you and I even knew who each other were.
That was.
Yeah. It was a long, long time ago. I saw it in theaters. You saw it through other means, apparently.
I saw it through a disc.
Through a disc, you saw it. Perhaps not what everyone would consider the ideal way to experience Avatar, but you saw the theatrical re-release this year, so you made up for it.
In 3D.
In 3D, as well. I mean, that goes without saying. I think that's implicit, but...
Just saying. Just covering my tracks.
I still remember, right after Avatar came out, James Cameron was like, well, we're going to get to work on the sequels, We're going to have, returning cast members from the original, even though, some of the characters they played may have become deceased during the events of the first film. And I was like, how are they going to do that? I was thinking about that as we entered into the 2010s. And then we exited the 2010s, having no Avatar 2. And then there was a pandemic, and we still had no Avatar 2. But you know what? I have not been going to the movie theater nearly as much as a result of the pandemic, but I masked up and went into the theater to get some 3D glasses and take in Avatar: The Way of Water. And yeah, Michael, go ahead, give whatever preamble you would like, and then we'll get into it.
Do I want to give into a preamble? So maybe you're binging The Road to Avatar 2. Maybe you're binging this.
Right.
Maybe you just listened to the first episode and second episode and you thought, they sound a little different in this 50th episode.
Right.
The recordings for episode 3 onward are lost, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You might think they sound a little different. They sound maybe a little more happy. Well, first of all, obviously we're happier because Avatar: The Way of Water has released, and we've seen
it.
Duh. But also, there was a tad sense, just a twinge of irony in the previous, in the pilot. Maybe
it's hard not to. It's hard not to have some.
Yeah.
I think we always had, on some level, enthusiasm for the film, because I still remember first seeing Avatar and loving it, but of course, there was a hate train that developed over time, because it just became really cool to not like this movie, and to say it had no cultural impact. So, it kind of started as us first peeling back the layers of that in a comedic way, and being like, well, let's imagine this hypothetical scenario in which we too are staunch defenders of the highest grossing movie of all time. And slowly but surely, the bit was not a bit anymore.
Slowly faded away. It melted into genuine sincerity.
Yes. We bit off more than we could chew with our bit.
Originally, the only reason I even cared enough to make jokes about it is because it was the #1 film. If it was 2 or 3 or literally any other number, it would have just been another movie that I didn't see.
Yeah.
But it's because I was so obsessed with the box office and am still obsessed with the box office.
Yeah.
And that it's #1 and that I missed out on the train originally. So I kind of This was before I like tracked the box office, and I didn't care about this specific movie at the time, so I just kind of missed the whole window of when it was a cultural phenomenon. I remember kids at school being like, "Oh, you gotta see this movie," but I was like, "Yeah, okay, whatever, I don't care."
We watched it in school at one point. They put it on like in orchestra near the end of the year. We watched it.
I cannot believe that.
It was certainly not in one class, because it's a pretty long movie, in case you forgot. But, yeah, I mean, it definitely had a cultural impact. We were all talking about it.
Well...
And now here we are again.
I do very vividly remember everything being in 3D for a while, yes. A long while.
Post-converted into it, because all the studios went, haha, that's where the money is. And I will be just taking a movie that was not meant to be in 3D and making it be in 3D, and I will get that Avatar money.
I will press the 3D button, and it will give me $1 billion.
2 billion, even.
2 billion. Well, let's not go that crazy. Let's just... Yeah. Nothing can be Avatar levels. It could just be, you know, like Spider-Man No Way Home levels, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Almost 2 billion.
Okay. I say enough preambles.
Enough preambles. Michael? Everyone has walked in to the theater. They got their movie extra snippet. Yeah. That's a Regal thing. I don't know where you saw this film.
I did see it at a Regal.
You did see it at a Regal. Did you buy your ticket in the Regal app?
I bought it in the Fandango app, to be honest.
Well, it was
great.
If you bought it in the Fandango app, you wouldn't have known that in the Regal app, they changed the A in Regal on the logo to be the Avatar A.
Yo!
And it's blue instead of orange. I took a screenshot because I was like, whoa. As I was walking into the theater, I noticed it, and I was like, oh my god, it's an event.
I feel like that shouldn't be allowed. I feel like that's showing bias to one movie. I feel like now, for the same amount of time, they have to change the A to, like, the same style A of the Fabelmans logo, you know? like they kind of, like, as if it's like, politicians appeering on a time slot on television.
Yeah, maybe they change the E to Fabelmans, you know, like, make it like the, what is it, coexist bumper stickers that you see.
Boy, yeah, no, I went in, I showed the movie theater attendant my ticket, and then he said, right down to the right. And he didn't even give me my 3D glasses, because that's how little people go see movies in 3D anymore. I had to remind him. I had to say, I just need the glasses. And then he gave them to me, and I said, thank you, sir. Thank you.
My theater was so packed. Like, even the line for people that already had tickets.
Wow.
To get scanned in was, like, backed up a bit. I was kind of in shock. Then I look over, like, because they're, like, blocking the hallway before you get to all the screens. And all the screens I could see was, like, Avatar high frame rate, Avatar IMAX, Avatar 2, normal boring edition. Avatar IMAX 3D, and I was like, "Whoa, oh my goodness!" The options.
Yeah, they were playing. It's so funny because for a while it seemed like the only thing that this because it's my regular theater, and it seemed like the only thing they were going to be showing was Avatar. Up until like a few days before, they added showtimes for a few other movies, including 2 Christmas-themed horror/thriller films. They have both the Violent Night and Mean One movies.
I keep forgetting about Mean One. That's not what this podcast is about.
It's not.
I don't want to think about the Mean One.
The Grinch knockoff movie. I was like, I can't believe someone could come into this movie theater today and be like, no, I don't want to see the sequel to the highest grossing movie of all time. I want to see the Grinch knockoff movie that's a horror movie. Like, are you serious? No. I was just offended.
I waited 100 years for this character to be out of the public domain. You Avatar fans have nothing on me.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so since you brought up formats, what format did you see the film in?
I saw this film in IMAX 3D.
Okay. IMAX 3D. I saw it in Real D 3D with HFR. High frame rate.
I also got high frame rate. I didn't realize that was part of the bit, that I got, because like when I walked in, I was like, oh, there's a separate screen for high frame rate. Maybe that's not what we're getting. But
yeah,
3D is like the main thing I'm going for. And listen, as a kid, I never really noticed the difference with IMAX. I was like, I didn't go to the theater enough. I was like, yeah, it's a big old screen. But let me tell you, listeners, I could tell a difference today. But maybe that's because I have my Regal Unlimited card and I've gone to the movies quite a bit within the last year. So
that's cool. For me, Real D 3D, it was kind of nostalgic because that's how I experienced the original Avatar film, and I was just like, you know what? Especially because also when I looked at the way that the formats were broken out, that included the high frame rate option, but the IMAX didn't have like the high frame rate next to it, and I was like, you know, I'm curious. I want to see what he's cooked up with this high frame rate.
Yeah, I know.
Definitely.
I felt the same thing. I was like, listen, I gotta see it. How like all the bells and whistles.
Right. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, and we'll get into the high frame rate. We'll get into all of that stuff. But I first want to know overall impressions. Michael, what did you think of Avatar: The Way of Water?
Okay. So I know you've had like half of your day to sit on your thoughts.
Yeah.
I just got back to my house like a little less than an hour ago.
I have no idea what you thought of it. This is really exciting.
You have no idea what I thought of it.
Yeah.
Okay, how do I start this?
Okay.
This movie made Avatar and Titanic feel like a prologue for this film.
Wow.
This movie, like, even there's a few shots at the very beginning, like where the sky people are flying to Pandora, and you get to see like these shots like in space, and it felt to me like those few shots specifically were something out of like a film, you know, a film that people talk about.
Yes.
They're like, okay, this is like 2001 A Space Odyssey or whatever. Like, you look at these shots of these like space things coming to Pandora, and these shots feel synonymous with film.
I know exactly what you mean.
You know exactly what I mean, because
it's larger than life.
It is larger than life, and not just because I saw it in IMAX, but because it truly is. And I as said earlier, I foreshadowed this exact thing I'm about to say. I missed the train on Avatar 2009.
Right.
I was like, oh, surely, like, it's a movie. You know, like, you go to a movie theater, you sit in a theater. Like, I don't understand how it could be so hyped. Mm-hmm. I get it now. I understand. Wow. Even though I saw Avatar in 3D, like, whenever they did the re-release a few months ago, I was like, this is fine, I guess. Like, maybe it would have been really cool in 2009, but, like, it does feel like they kind of pressed the 3D button. But this screening that I was at, it truly did feel like an experience and not like a movie. You know, like,
yes,
it felt like the window of the projection. The projection felt like a window into another world. Like, it didn't feel like things were like super popping out at you, but it felt like you're like, oh, I just want to go in and explore the world. And yes. it felt. We all know that the movie's long. Okay. By the way, I proud did not go to the bathroom once during this movie.
Oh, did not go to the bathroom.
I missed no scenes.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cameron.
Even though James Cameron gave us permission. He specifically called both of us and said, listen, guys, love the podcast. If you need to go to the bathroom, you can go. Trust me, there was somebody in my theater who got up, I think maybe even twice over the course of the film, to use the bathroom. I can only assume. I didn't go up and ask, hey, what are you doing?
There was so much water in the film. He just could not.
That's true. It is. He's like almost taunting you. Like, come on. You sure? You think you can hold it?
But the movie felt like it was long. We all know, but it sort of felt like a binging of a show or like a
Yes!
video game where
I
like
agree.
you get to like these different areas and it's like, okay, we're in this new area. We're going to explore it. We're going to get some new characters. There's a new animal sidekick that we're going to have fun adventure with.
Yes.
And then it just continues on into another area. And it like it has these highs and lows. And it's like, I know that's how films work. Because it's like, oh yeah, Act 1, 2, and 3 sort of has each of their own like mini climaxes or whatever. But this, it just, in the nicest way possible, it felt like it never stopped.
Yeah.
Like, there were these moments where, like, you know, Spider and Quaritch would, like, be having their own thing. And then it's like, okay, pause. We're gonna spend 40 minutes looking at this weird jellyfish. Look at it. We know you want to look at it. Come on. We know the second we cut away, you will be a little bit sad. And I was a little bit sad when they cut away from the beautiful underwater landscapes. Oh my goodness. Like, okay, it was so hype. Because, like, you know, like, it's called The Way of Water. We've been following the production of this. We know that it's like, okay, you've been wanting to do these, like, crazy water, like, visuals and effects. So, like, when all the kids are like, oh, come down, come to the water, I was like, okay, guys. Here we go.
No,
like
make
this,
a break time.
This is it. This is what we waited 13 years for right here.
Oh.
And you can feel every dollar spent in this movie. Like there are a lot there are a lot of movies that are expensive and it's like, yeah, okay. That's because Robert Downey Jr. really wanted his paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
This movie, you could feel the time and effort that was like poured into it. Like it felt like there were all these cool things at all moments that just did not even get a focus because it's like, yeah, that's just in the background. That's part of the world. You know, like these cool crab mech things. Yeah, awesome design. They could have just been people, like, design, like the original mechs, but it's these cool, like, I don't even know what to say. The crabs, they look so cool, Brian. There were these little, like, spider things that were, like, building all the buildings. I know I'm talking about all, like, the human mech stuff, but oh my goodness. The robot stuff just looks cool to me. But also, like, I need to, like, look up a list of everyone's names, because I know them by... I know everyone by their faces, but not their names. But, like, the weird, like, sort of eel things that sort of emulate the flying things in the first movie, you know, that they're all, like, riding on the whole time. Mm-hmm. Like, they're just kind of always there. And it's like, wow. Like, they don't... That's so hard to do, I would imagine. You just have, like, all of these super detailed, like, always moving things all the time, all over the place, in this movie, where there's also, like, dozens and dozens of people just constantly there. It's just like a town, a village, and you're just constantly seeing all of these people in, like, some of the best CG that you could see. Like,
oh yeah,
I feel like I can't even think, you know? Like, I'm just, like, spilling out all of these many thoughts. Oh my goodness.
I just wanted to let you speak on that, because I could just feel the passion.
I know.
Like,
listen, it was so ironic, but then today I experienced 3 hours of, like, a euphoric blast. You know?
Oh my goodness.
Like, that, I know that's what they said in the Rise of Skywalker trailer, that was like, or the Accolades trailer, that was like, oh, this is a euphoric blast. But no.
They did? Oh,
they did do that, because I remember I memed it a bit at the time.
Okay.
But Avatar: The Way of Water is, in fact, a euphoric blast. Woo! Woo!
Yes.
That was a Jeremy Jahns reference for you.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I haven't listened. Cadence. I haven't listened to him in a while, but oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. Well, yeah, no, Guillermo del Toro. I remember he said that
I was thinking it.
Movie, And he was like, this is a movie. I haven't seen a movie in a long time. And as soon as he said that, I was like, wow. Because I just watched this Pinocchio, and I was like, this guy, I mean, we all knew already, but, like, just recently he proved he knows how to make a movie. So, you gotta trust his seal of approval.
Yeah, I will say.
Yeah.
Pinocchio, thumbs up, big thumbs up for me. Definitely watch it, and watch it on every single profile of your Netflix account. Anyway, let's go back
Absolutely. To yes. But, so, what I did, so last night, I popped in my Blu-ray of Avatar, which I have, it's the 3-disc collector's edition. I watched specifically the theatrical version of the film.
Which would have,
like, to take myself back. Yeah.
Great call. I'm sure that there were some things that I missed. Just because, you know, it
was great, yeah.
Haven't seen it in a few months. But there were some callbacks where I was like, whoa.
Yep. Oh, I watched it last night and saw the movie, the sequel this morning. And I specifically was thinking about that because I was going back in my head to, like, Terminator 1 and Terminator 2, because they feel, like, very of the same piece. Like, you watch both of those and you're like, oh man, like, you see, like, the rising action in one becomes falling action in the next, and even though they have separate identities, they're so connected to each other. So that's, you know, Cameron has that previous duology. Those are 2 movies he directed.
Having separate identities but feeling so connected to each other? Let's hold on to that for a moment.
Yeah, let's hold on to that theme. Yeah, that might be relevant soon. But I was watching Avatar, you know, and I've seen this movie a bunch of times over the years. But I was watching Avatar again, and I was just, you know, that's like fist-pumping joy you get when you watch Avatar, you know what I mean? Or you're just like, oh my goodness, like, even before we got to any of the Pandora stuff, I'm just like, oh, it's so clean how he's setting all this up. He's walking us through the science, you know? Like, he's making it so... Usually you have to... I'll have to explain something to my parents in one of these weird sci-fi movies I put on. No, they know what's going on. He walks them all through it, but it doesn't feel like it's like, oh, he's, like, really hand-holding you or anything. No, he's guiding you through into this new world. You feel like you're there with Jake. You feel like he's there as this POV character for you. And I'm watching the movie, and I'm finishing it, and we get to the end where frickin' Neytiri shoots Miles in the chest with 2 arrows back to back, which you can't help but go, yeah! It's just, like, the best ending. It's like, that is a movie, and I finished that up, and I'm just like, oh, man, listen, I have faith in James Cameron, but, like, Avatar is so good, you know? Because I feel like there are some people out here who are just like, oh, I didn't really care about the original Avatar, but, man, I mean, maybe I'll like the sequel. No. Avatar is so good that it's like, is this sequel gonna measure up? That's how I'm coming at it from. And that was really renewed by my rewatch from last night. So I kind of went into it, you know, and I'm not gonna say nervous or trepidatious or anything, but it was just like, how is he gonna do it? Like, how is he going to, you know, because like T1 to T2, going back to Terminator for a second, obviously that's a huge change in budget, so it just totally, like, expands the scope. It, like, the production value just, like, exponentially increases. It's nuts. So I was just curious how he would approach this one. Because the other thing with the Terminators is that it does still feel like, okay, he kept the same core of, like, it's, you know, it's humans versus robots. Like, it is still that same war. It's just you're sort of experiencing it on a bigger scope. And I think Avatar: The Way of Water is very much still holding that same sequel philosophy of, like, listen, it's not, yes, we finished the first Avatar with, like, the threat of the Sky People seemingly eliminated, at least at the time it was eliminated, but it returns because that's the thrust of Avatar. It isn't just, oh, now we're on Pandora, now it's just sort of we can experience this and not have any more external threats come. No. The story being told here is very much about Sky People versus Na'vi. Like, that clash of identity is what drives these films. And he just painted on a really big canvas with this one. And I kind of mentioned before, Jake was the POV character in the original. This is definitely an ensemble piece. There are a lot of characters in this one that we're following. And I'm going to go right towards, I'm going to say who I think was like the standout in this. And I'm curious if you'll agree with me. There are many characters.
I'm going to need to pull up like a list of faces and names.
There are many characters that I really enjoyed, but because what I'll say is I think in the original movie, I think for me, the standout is Neytiri, no question. She, I think, totally makes that movie. She is your, like, yeah, your POV is Jake, but like Neytiri is the one that really is guiding you through the world. Sigourney Weaver's Grace, is also like, really fantastic. There's so many top to bottom great performances in that movie. But I think Zoe Saldana as Neytiri, like, just, was incredible. And especially, I was watching today on the Blu-ray, like, the documentaries, the behind the scenes for the original film, and you see, like, the reference footage for the performance capture, and you watch her acting, and how she did all this training where, like, she's able to do the archery and the dancing and everything, and, like, but even just her facial acting, it is unbelievable. So I think that Neytiri, like, iconic film character. In this movie, Miles Quaritch's clone. I'm going in on Miles's clone.
Oh, wow.
That, I loved him. I thought, and let me be clear, I thought he was a great villain in the first movie. I think he's so fun. I love the stuff of, like, he won't have a way to actually breathe, so then he'll just hold his breath, and he'll still be, like, shooting and going at you, and, like, he's, like, super determined. And, like, but this one, I feel like, really cranked it up to, like, he is just this threat that cannot be stopped. He keeps coming back. He's like the Terminator of this series. He just will keep coming. Like, Neytiri at one point refers to him as, like, it's like, I will kill this demon as many times as I have to, And, like, they keep, like, because for me, like, the best, like, movie moment of the original Avatar is that scene where, like, she shoots him up with the arrows, and they really pay tribute to that scene throughout this, because he comes and he finds, like, the site of the climactic battle from the first film, and he still has, like, the mech. He sees, like, the skull. He takes it, he cracks it in his hand.
He crushes the skull.
He crushes it. And he sees the arrows still in his chest. And it's not even, he has not experienced this battle firsthand. Because he is a clone. He is a backup clone that was made with the personality and memories from right before that battle occurred. So he sees some, like, video footage of it. And he gets, like, a video log of Miles explaining, like, what he is. And that he's supposed to be this clone. So, like, he's sort of piecing together a little bit of, like, who is this Neytiri? Why, like, what is this revenge that is fueling me, or supposed to be fueling me, the person that I'm a clone of? And later, when those arrows start popping up again, he's like, oh, I know who that is. I know that's Mrs. Sully or whatever. And oh man, he is just so intimidating in this. I love seeing him in the Avatar form, because he still is, like, fully committed to being this villain, and yet also not. Because you have Spider and the big like, spoilers, by the way. We're getting into everything on this.
Yeah, if you're this far in, like...
Yeah, come on. Spider, the fact that it's his son, because at first they just say, oh, orphaned on the planet, which I know when we saw the trailer, it was like, okay, it has to be someone orphaned by the war, if there's going to be this human kid on the planet. But, like, that it's his kid... And, like, this connection, and he's, like, in denial, sort of the connection throughout. He tries to say, I'll do the more personal touch to try to get information, to try to draw out the family of Jake and Neytiri, But by the end, you see that he does care a little bit. I thought the two of them were the most interesting, and I think I'm most excited to see that thread continue across the rest of the films, to the point that I was like, oh man, they can't kill off Miles at the end of this. And when he gets saved and he gets brought, I was like, this is so interesting. This is adding, like, the mythic familial quality of, like, this is the kind of, like, Star Wars sequel stuff that I love to see. And I'm not just talking about, like, recent sequel trilogy. I'm talking, like, Empire Strikes Back, I Am Your Father type stuff of, like, this, like, big, larger than life, like, complicated family background stuff that's within this fantasy film setting. And it was just so exciting, and it made me feel like that again just spoke to how this felt like an event film. This felt like one of those, like, Star Wars movies that comes out, and it's like and it's even like, yeah, like the sequel trilogy was like in December, you're gonna have to wait 2 years for the next one. Like, this is, and I'm excited for that wait, because there's so much that was given to us in this, portion, in this 3 hour, 15-minute long portion. There's plenty to, re-experience as we wait for whatever's next. And thankfully, it won't be nearly as long a wait as it was between films 1 and 2. But yeah,
and even if it was, I would gladly wait.
Even if it was, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I would gladly wait because it is an event, and James Cameron delivers. He really does. Like, I'm curious if you have any thoughts on like Miles and Spider, or if you feel like if there's like a character that really took it from me, because there's definitely other characters as well that I want to talk about.
I will say
that's just the first. Yeah.
When we were hearing all of the news and they were like, Miles Quaritch is going to be the main villain, I was like, really?
Yeah.
They're like,
it seemed a little lame.
It did. Quite frankly, it took a lot of the wind underneath my sails.
Because it just seemed like it's a small world. Is this just going to be rehashing the first one? But
it didn't even feel like it's a small world. It was like, oh, this feels very like retcon-y. Like he was like, oh, I have this whole master like story Bible, but I accidentally killed off this guy that I don't really want to, so I'm gonna bring him back.
What's great about it too is that for Miles himself, it's an afterthought because it's just like, oh yeah, it's a backup, but I'm not even gonna need it because I'm gonna win. But, like, if for some reason I die, which is not gonna happen, then I guess, you know, you're gonna wanna... You better make sure you get revenge for me, because I'm gonna be mad about it. Like, this, I feel like, cemented him as one of the great movie villains. I don't know, I'm just gonna say it. I feel like not a ton of people are necessarily gonna say this, or maybe they will. I don't know. I'm saying it.
I mean, I am absolutely a sucker for any type of, like, clone identity story. Yep. And honestly, there were points in this movie where I was like, is Spider, like... also a clone, like not even like a son, but like this is the direct dichotomy of this person was raised like in the military versus this person was raised like not in the military. I don't know, I think that would be interesting, but like I guess at this point maybe it's he's just the son. Like maybe that's not supposed to be like a continuous mystery thread, but I will say that there were multiple times where it was like where I was thinking it throughout the duration of the event. I will say I can't even call it a film because it expands much further than that.
There's definitely some lingering family mystery when it comes to one of the other characters in the movie. Answers that we still don't quite have, which again is sort of what brings me back to this Star Wars sequel feeling of like, we don't know yet what's going on with Sigourney Weaver's character. You know, like where exactly did she come from? Like, because they drop it right at the beginning of the movie. Like Jake just goes through all of this exposition in his monologue. I'm like, whoa, oh my goodness, so much lore is dropping down right now. He says, I need to take notes. Hold on.
Like when I said like it felt like a euphoric blast. Like we just get right into it. It's like, by the way.
I was like, James, you know you got 3 hours for this, right? Like, why we were going so fast? Oh my goodness. But like, yeah, it's Kiri, who's the adopted daughter they had. It was born from Grace's Na'vi avatar, who's like still like in the tank, like she like not like truly alive, but they don't know how it happened. They don't know where it came from. And it's like, does she have a father? They say, oh, maybe Norm's the father. They don't really know. Like, where did she come from exactly? I think James Cameron is the father, personally. That's my theory. But I don't know.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say Miles Quaritch.
Just Miles again. Miles is just always the twist reveal father, I guess. Which, I mean, hey, it worked well for me the first time.
Well, I mean, that's what he does. It's like, you know, I'm going to do the same thing, but on a bigger scale.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love... That's the other character that I really loved in this. I thought Sigourney did a great job.
She absolutely
You can tell it's her. But, like, it's so... Like, you're like, really? She's gonna play a little kid? Yeah, she's gonna play a little kid.
Yeah, she's gonna play a little kid. And it's gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be awesome. And you feel, like, you know, a little bit of that same spirit of Grace present in the character. Like, a little bit of that, you know... Like, not necessarily, like, above it all, but, like, still very, like, she has a solid head on her shoulders. It's a smart woman. But she has, like, that same appreciation that Grace had, but also like filtered into this more childlike innocence that is obviously very appropriate for the character. And the moments when, yeah, she would go up to Grace's like inert avatar, or like was looking at the video log, or like trying desperately to make the connection with her, those were really touching moments, I felt.
I absolutely agree. And that reminds me, like, they did have some clips, like, from the first movie, like, integrated into this one.
Yeah.
And it felt like it was, it's nostalgia, but it didn't feel like it was too...
It was seamless.
Baity. Yeah, it just felt like it was like, yep, here's part of the exposition. These characters live in this world that has these things. You've seen them, so maybe it's a little exciting to see it. But, like, yeah, this is explaining how they know some things, because we know people are going to be like, well, how'd they know this thing that happened in the first movie? You know, like, how'd they know all of this stuff? How'd the kids know that? They weren't there for that.
This sounds simplistic, but I was worried it wouldn't feel the same. But let me tell you, in the same that, like, with Terminator to Terminator 2, it's this seamless effect. That's how it was watching this. It really felt like, oh, yeah, they made this right. Like, obviously they didn't make it right after, because it took a lot of time and effort to do it, but it just, no step was missed. Like, you feel like it's the same hands crafting the experience that you're watching now.
I mean, I'm sure that, like, everyone at some point was like, what are they doing? You know, for these 13 years, where it's like, are they really, like, they took a break, right? Like, what are they really doing there? But watching it, it's like, oh, they have been working on this the whole time.
I was just excited seeing, even, like, you get, like, the little pieces of, like, when you see, like, the human footage of Miles or Grace, or even, like, Parker, like, the guy with the golf club pops up in the back.
He does! I'm like, I was excited.
Oh my goodness, it's him! It's like, you know? It just really, and yes, they show the full frame footage of, like, when they made the humans leave Pandora in the first film, and it feels seamless. It's not like, oh, you're cutting away to this clip and it feels like you're going to a different movie than what you're in. No, it's just a continuation of the story you had seen, but now just with many more characters. Now it is a family, and I gotta say, all that stuff James Cameron was saying about, listen, these Marvel movies, the heroes, they don't have families, they just will do whatever, they are willing to risk it all because they got nothing to lose, and people were like, oh, no, some of the Marvel heroes have kids, and like, yeah, they do, but not in the same way that they had kids in this movie, I have to say. Like, the kids in this, the family, like, you saw how Jake was a different person. Now, he was somebody that was very afraid to lose his family, because he almost does, and then that is what sends them into, you know, retreating, seeking refuge through the way of water, I guess, but that is what motivates him to do this. And this is the same guy who in the first movie, he was ready to, like, beat his chest and be like, we will send them a message that this is our land. Like, it's not the same Jake here. He'll be hard on the kids, but he really cares about the kids. And I felt like they did a nice job walking that line, because I feel like sometimes in a sequel like this, when you're expanding and you're having, like, the kids also joining the picture, the impulse is, well, let me make the original main character, who's now a dad, let me just make them a total jerk now. And, like, yeah, he's hard on the kids, but you understand where it's coming from. And it doesn't feel like, there's always those moments to, like, pull back. Like, when Neytiri calls him out on it, he does make it clear, like, I was this close to losing. Like, the heart is still intact. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely agree. And speaking of their family, there was one scene in the movie that I freaked out at. You might have freaked out about it, I don't know. But I will say that, like, I assume 99% of the population that sees this movie will not even, won't even register or think about.
Really? What scene?
The scene where Jake and Neytiri are arguing. And
yes,
underneath the thing. I freaked out. I was like, this is what he was talking about when he said it feels like you see your parents fighting underneath the bed. Yes. I lost my mind.
Years ago, James Cameron went on the record talking about how there would be a scene that would make you feel like you're a kid hiding under the bed while your parents are arguing. And as soon as that comes, and it comes up pretty early in this movie, relatively speaking. And as soon as I registered it almost immediately.
Me too.
Just like, whoa, oh my goodness. And I was like, I would have been laughing out of sheer joy, but it was like a really good scene. So I was just like, oh no, this is dramatic. Like, and it didn't feel like, it wasn't like super played up, like, oh my goodness, like, oh, what if they see me right now? No, it was just like kind of an upsetting moment of like, oh, are they really gonna leave? Like, are they gonna leave all this behind? But yeah, I mean, they were at risk because like when it's the kidnapping occurs of Spider, their location is compromised. They could be tracked right back to where they are. So they needed to go. It was a tough call, but it needed to happen. And this whole parental argument is witnessed from the bed POV under the bed.
Because, like, they even have, like, part of the tint at, like, the top of the screen, and I was like, oh my god. Oh my god.
It was incredible.
Reading the interviews pays off.
I really felt like I was a part of the filmmaking process. I felt like I was under that bed for years, waiting for Jake and Neytiri to come have an argument in front of me. And at last they did. At last they had a situation that was worth arguing about. It really is so sad, because it's like, they get like, what, probably 7 minutes of peace that's done in this like really like quick cut montage over the years, and then the Sky People return, and you're like, oh no.
I just want to look at the glowing plants.
I just want to look at the glowing plants. And they're nice too, because they give you, they have their cake and eat it too. You get to re-experience the sights of Pandora that you remember, but you also get to explore a new place
that is
for the first time.
I was thinking that. I was like, okay, we have 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
Part of the appeal of both of these movies now is the new locales and like, whoa, everything's so pretty and cool, and look at these special effects. They went all in on that in this movie, and I cannot comprehend how they could possibly like continue that.
What's left?
Where could they go? They had all the land stuff. They had all the underwater stuff. Are we gonna see a pond? Are
they going to like abstract thought from Inside Out? Like, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna blow my mind next?
We're gonna see that human like society, and it's gonna look like New York, and we're gonna go, whoa!
Oh my goodness, it's crazy. Like, okay, so there's just so much going on in this movie, because it's like, there is a 3-act structure, I think you could say, because I would describe it very simply as Act 1, the Sky People return. Act 2, we play in the water. And Act 3, battle.
Avatar.
Those are the 3 acts. The play of water. I mean, but it really is, because I think and there are reviews that are saying like, like the second act is long, and yes, it is long. It takes its time being like, listen, we figured out how to make the underwater look good, and you are going to look at it for a good long time.
And look at it, I did. I loved looking at it.
Yeah. And like, the whale scene from Act 2, that I think, was that the scene that you got from, because, okay, so in the Avatar re-release that they did this year, they had scenes that popped up in the credits that apparently were like randomized. There were like a couple different options, so you could go see the re-release and potentially get a different preview scene from Avatar 2. But Mike, you got the whale scene,
I got the scene that started with, what is it, Loak?
Mm-hmm.
When he like wakes up blacked out on the rock, and then he learns that the rock is actually a whale, and then he like dances with it, and he takes out like the harpoon. That is the scene that I got, and oh my goodness, when I tell
that's one of the best scenes in the movie.
It's
honestly might even be the best scene.
It's amazing. Like I almost cried when I saw it in the re-release. I got even closer to crying this time, especially seeing it like in context of everything. It's a wonderful scene. I don't even know what to say. It's beautiful. Just watching them dance underneath the surface of the water is just, I don't know. You can really sense his feeling of, I want to protect sea life, like through every aspect of this movie.
Yes, and I challenge anyone to say that is not an extremely like admirable thing to put in your big blockbuster movie. Like just this encouragement of, listen, this stuff is important, and it sucks when it's threatened and it's hurt and bad things happen to it, and we can stop it. We can do something about this. And like, in the same way that people were saying, oh, like the first Avatar is like Dances with Wolves, like Ferngully, whatever. I already have seen a few people be like, oh, the whale says, like, what is this, Free Willy or whatever? It's like, open up your mind and your heart, Like, I don't understand how you can watch that sequence and not feel something for this whale-like creature. Like, there are so many... I've seen a lot of movies and shows now at this point. I know, I'm familiar with narrative tropes, all the different things you could do with a story under the sun, but it's about how you do it. It's in the how. And Cameron's how is a pretty good how. It's a pretty good how. And you feel it in that scene. It is, and a lot of it, like there's some dialogue in it, but it is you just feel it very visually in that. And there are several things throughout the movie too that they don't like really spoon feed you exactly, like, because there's the running thing throughout with Sigourney Weaver's character Kiri, when she like sort of blacks out, and they like, oh, you're doing the thing again. It's like the kind of the first time it comes up, and you don't know exactly what it is at first, and it seems like what we're meant to think is that she's briefly like coming into contact with Grace in a way that's like more heightened later on, when like she like directly connects with the spirit in a way that like almost kills her.
I will say that scene,
yeah,
like, oh my goodness,
jaw-dropping. What a scene!
It was scary, but
yeah,
oh my goodness, was it one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen? Like, just visually, like, just all the lights like were off, and all like the dots on her were like kind of glowing in like a very skeletal way, like reacting to itself. There were multiple times in this movie where I was like wowed, and that was like, I wanted to be wowed going in, and I was like, okay, I'm kind of expecting it, but also, what could they do that would like really wow me, like,
and it has wow in the acronym.
It does have wow in the acronym, and by goodness, that this is why they knew. And
what it was just,
we had the era of Chekhov's gun, but I declare, starting today, we have Cameron's whale.
Yep. Yeah. We have Cameron's whale. Geez, just the spiritual the scenes where you have like characters that are in this movie talking to characters that have passed away, because it happens in that scene. It happens again near the very, very end of the movie. And both times it is extremely effective. Extremely effective. Because it feels like this otherworldly thing of like, wow, I'm getting this like heavenly chance, this spiritual chance to connect across a plane with someone that I thought was lost. Or in the case of, with Grace, like, that's a person she's never even met, and she has this like beautiful magical moment where it's like, and you're not even sure, like, is it really her? Is this her through Eywa? Like, it seems to be, or is it just like a memory? Is this just sort of cobbled together from what she thinks, how she thinks Grace would greet her, how her mother would greet her based on the little pieces he has from the video log footage she's seen? It's really, it's sort of up to you to decide, but like, gosh, it's really something. But yeah, just, I think we can talk about like the big turning point of the movie, because it was interesting, because at first, they try to do this thing where, okay, well, we got to draw them out, and they do it by like attacking the whale creatures. And when that happened, like, they play like that same music from the first one when like the tree is falling over and like all of that, and I was like, okay, this is an interesting choice, because it's like, we didn't hit the main whale-like creature, but like, we're going with the music here. Okay, so I guess this is the equivalent. No. James Cameron was tricking us. That was not the moment where stuff got really real. It was the moment where they killed one of the kids. I didn't think they would do it. I really didn't think they would do it. I was kind of shocked.
I didn't think they would do it in this one.
Yeah, no, not... Well, yeah, I mean, look, you have, how many? 30 movies? I thought eventually maybe it would happen. But not in this one. felt bad for the actor. I was like, geez.
That's exactly what I thought. I was like, dang, like, I mean, what a movie to be in, but like, oh my goodness, I'm sorry.
I guess he could be back.
Yeah, he'll be back in the next one as a clone or as a daughter or something.
A spirit, a memory, something, you know. Oh, jeez. Yeah, but that was really, and that's kind of what was needed. Because I feel like even if someone fell asleep during the second act, even if they were not interested in the way of water at all, as soon as that happens, it's pretty difficult to not care about conquering the bad guys. You know what I mean? Like that raised the stakes in a way that really felt, but it was reasonable. You know, I don't think it cut his arc short or anything. Like all the other kids sort of had something that was still ongoing. I don't want to say like it was his time to die, like not that, but just it didn't feel like, oh, that was a mistake or that was like an interruption of something. It felt like it was an appropriate narrative choice. And it also was, honestly, it was kind of a baton passing moment because I felt like Neytiri for a good chunk of this movie was pretty in the background.
I was gonna say, like, yeah, she felt shafted in this movie.
I was like a little disappointed because I said earlier, like, she was like, I think the iconic character from the first movie. But I will say, once this happened and she had her big reaction to her son's death, from then to the end of the movie, she was used really well. Like, they took full advantage of Zoe Saldana's performance. And they set up the whole thing of how, like, she kind of kept Spider at arm's length. It was like, he needs to go back with his own kind. Again, this whole thing of, like, the division between... It's not just if you're a clone... Because, like, you see it, you track it through the Miles clone. You have it through Spider. You have it through Kiri. And, like, but it really comes to a head in this one. A son for a son. That whole scene. And you're like, oh my God, is she gonna kill him? Like, it's really intense. And Miles tries to be like he doesn't care, but then she slices across his chest. Like, oh my goodness, I don't know how far she was willing to go. It was nuts.
Okay. This is a funny thing to bring up.
Yeah.
So, sitting in the theater, my watch goes off, and I'm like, I have like airplane mode on and stuff. So, you know, afterwards I look it down. Your heart rate rose above 120 beats per minute while you seem to be inactive. Like, dang, wow, this IMAX.
Wow!
This IMAX
Do you know when that...
really...
Wait, when did that happen? Was it during that scene?
It happened when the movie was starting.
Oh.
6:20, it says.
Wow, that's amazing.
So, which is the only reason why I looked at it, because if it was during the actual, like, movie, as Guillermo del Toro has said.
Right, as he coined.
Then I wouldn't have looked, but...
You would have taken the watch off and thrown it on the ground.
I gotta get, like, things all movie, and then I looked down, I was like, oh, LOL.
No, if it was during the movie, you would have picked it up and, like, crushed it in your hand like the skull.
Yeah, I would have. I don't even think I would have noticed. I was too busy, like, trying to feel all the water. Oh, we'll say, when the way of water is said in the movie, like, I almost squealed. I was like, oh my God, they said it. It's like a mythical, like, quote. And they said it in this movie that I'm watching.
I cannot believe, like, there are so many sequels out here that'll just add a pretty generic subtitle and call it a day. But James Cameron was like, I'm going to follow up the most successful movie of all time with a movie called The Way of Water. And he did. And he earned it. He talked about the way. They learned the way over the course of the film. The way is what saves them. Jake almost didn't make it in the end.
There was a moment where I thought, oh my God, are they going to kill off Jake Sully? Like, I actually...
The fact that they got me to think that, even for a second, is insane! That is insane! Right? Like, because did you... you were thinking... like,
yeah, I was thinking that. I was like, his son, like... He's the one that, like, learned how to, like, breathe all this stuff, and I think that, like...
They set up a lot with him, yeah.
Yeah, like, I think it duos, like, okay, like, he was set up, like, with the Miles and Jake fight, like, you know... Yeah, it's like, okay, well, we have the person that doesn't want to adapt to change versus the person that wants to adapt to change.
Right.
And then
he kind of got his own Neytiri. He got his own like love interest in the movie. It was like, are they just passing the torch right now? Is that what's happening?
I mean, it kind of felt like it. But and then later when Loek is like trying to save Jake, it's like, oh, we have the person that like he's okay with change, but versus like his son who's like full force like jumping in, like why should we let this whale outcast be outcast when he saved me? And I think the rules of that are kind of, you know, malleable or something like that. Like, I don't know, it kind of fell with the theme of change versus static.
No, and you genuinely felt like this could be a moment where his life is in danger, like, and he just barely makes it through. And you know what? They were sort of struggling to reach the surface near the end, but it was their outcast whale friend that brought them up to the surface. Had they not had the help of their whale friend, that Jake would not have made it. He would not have made it.
I will say, every single time that whale was on screen, I was like, yes!
That whale is a star. That whale is a star. Because I was gonna say, if there were some other characters that I didn't love so much in this movie, I would have came on here and said the whale is the best character in the movie. And I know that would sound like, oh, people would be like, oh wow, the acting must be really bad if you think the whale. No, the whale's just that good in the movie.
Yeah, like every single time the whale's on screen. And I was looking forward to the whale for way longer than like you were.
Oh yeah. The whale came out, because I was getting that scene, because I remember you sort of described to me very vaguely what the scene was. When it was happening, I realized, oh, this must be the scene Michael saw. I feel like it happened, like 2 hours into the movie or
it
something?
Felt like it happened super late in, and then you realize, oh my goodness, wait. That's pretty early in. Like, it just feels like this movie is so non-linear. Like, thinking back, you know, it's like, oh, we didn't get to, like, any of the water stuff until it feels like a pretty decent chunk of the way in.
I feel like at least an hour in.
It feels like that, yeah. Like, I remember thinking, like, oh my god, we haven't even gotten to, like, the title yet of the movie. We're an hour.
I know, we were getting into that, and I was like, geez, I guess that was, like, the prologue, you know? And that already felt like, you know, it was pretty spicy, like, it was intense. You know, there were some close calls. He almost lost his kids. It was crazy.
This is what a movie should be.
This movie, I mean, you get your money.
It's a movie. It feels like an adventure you go on. Like, it feels like a weekend getaway.
When I was coming back from this movie, I felt like I went to space. Like, I was coming back from space.
It felt like that. It's like, wow, post-Pandora depression is real.
But post-Pandora depression is back, baby!
It spikes around the holidays.
It really seems to. But, yeah, like, going back to this whole idea of, you said, it feels like you're watching a season of television. Because there are these repeated beats of these kids keep getting into trouble. And it's different, and it's not necessarily always their fault, but they keep getting into trouble. And there's so many scenes where it's like, Jake has to be like, what did you do? What did you do? All I wanted was for you to not cause trouble. And look what you've done. And there's just so much of that, and so much of that kidnapping. And I actually think the funniest line in the movie, to me, is... I'm curious if this registered for you at all, but it's when their youngest daughter, near the end of the movie, says, what is it, the line that she says? It's she gets taken again by, like, Miles and the Humans, and she goes... I can't believe I'm being tied up again.
Yeah, that got the biggest laugh in my theater.
Oh,
though, to be fair, there was not very many laughs to be had in my theater.
There was not much in the way of reactions in my theater. To be fair, I went during a time where, you know, there wasn't a ton of people in the theater. I could sort of just enjoy it safely with a not super packed theater, as much as I love crowd reactions. The one time I heard there was a laugh was there was an older woman that was sitting in the row in front of me, and it was the part after, like, the fight between all the kids where they're, like, defending their sister, and, like, Jake kind of, like, you know, reprimands them, and then, like, says something like, okay, well, like, what the other ones look like? Worse. And he's like, good job. That got a laugh. That's classic. Some classic stuff in here, you know?
Like Dancing with Wolves.
Yeah, just like Dances with Wolves. Yawn. Nothing like that. Who cares? I spit on Dances with Wolves. Pooh!
Also, I'm curious if you thought that one guy in the boat looked like The Rock.
I didn't really think that, I guess, no.
Well, there was one guy on the boat, and I was like, did they get The Rock for, like, a background? Like, guy? Like...
He would have been a lot more vocal about it on Twitter.
That's exactly the only reason why I was like, I guess not.
He'll be on the front lines being like, listen, Avatar 2 is making its money back. It's not going to do as well as Black Adam, but it'll do pretty well. Jeez. That was crazy. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the HFR.
We are
really
an hour in, and I feel like we haven't talked about anything.
We're barely scratching the surface. We're not even underwater. Just like the movie, it takes an hour to get underwater! Let's talk HFR. What do you think of HFR?
I mean, I'm gonna be that guy and say I thought it was awesome. You know that it's gonna be great when Spencer Wan whips out his pencil. That's an Owl House joke for the crossover audience there.
Yes. It's that moment where it's like, oh, stuff is happening. It reminded me of because okay, for anyone who doesn't know or didn't see the screen that has high frame rate, some sequences in the movie are in 48 frames per second, as opposed to the standard 24 frames per second that we are all used to. We're all mentally trained for. And the way they were able to do that, because usually it's either if you make it at a certain frame rate, that's it. That's the way it is throughout. But what they did for this is, for any of the scenes that were at 24 frames per second, they repeat the frames. So they're able to, like, get away with it and, like, have, like, this sort of back and forth. And I was really curious to see how that would kind of work out. And I think it did take a little bit of mental adjustment for me. Because it's like, I saw Billy Lynn's long halftime walk at, like, a premiere screening. I've seen 120 frames per second when it's going the whole movie. So, like, I know sort of what this sort of thing feels like. But, like, the going back and forth, and also just, I know how the original Avatar movie looks at 24 frames per second. I'm very familiar with seeing the world of Pandora at that frame rate. It takes a little bit of adjustment time, and also just, years of being typically used to seeing 24 frames per second like anyone else would be. But I think when it really clicks together is in the underwater stuff, because that is a world that you've never seen before. And I think there it adds this sort of otherworldly effect. I don't think it's for everybody, and I do see, like, there's some people who are complaining about it. I'm curious how much it'll necessarily register for the general public. I've seen some tweets where it just seemed like people will be like, oh, it kind of felt like a video game, but, like, they don't know exactly why.
I was about to say that, like, it felt, maybe I'm sort of used to it, because I am used to, like, games where the frame rate does change, whether or not it's, like, lagging, or just, not at a perfect solid frame rate. But that kind of gave more to the feeling of, like, you're exploring this world like a video game, where you're just kind of playing around with little things just because you enjoy being there, instead of going directly forward with the plot.
Yeah, I saw a couple whispering to each other early on, and I was like, are they whispering about, they're like, what's going on with the movie? Like, what's happening? Like, I don't know. Because it was great. Like, there are some parts, especially, like, when they're flying on their banshees, and you're like, I know how this looks, and this looks so different. It's so fast. It's like, oh my goodness. My senses are being assaulted.
Felt like Soarin'.
Oh, I love Soarin'. I love Soarin'.
Or like, so Navi's River Journey, the Avatar ride that's like this.
I still haven't been on it.
What's the other one? The actual ride. What is it? Flight of Passage.
Flight of Passage. Yeah, that's the other one I haven't been on. I haven't been
Don't
to
worry,
the...
I haven't been on Flight of Passage either.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, but it definitely is an adjustment. And I think for some people, I'll be curious to see, once you're able to experience the whole movie at 24 frames per second, how that plays out. But yeah, I think for the people that, there's obviously the contingency that's anti-motion smoothing, and I'm sure, and of course I'm amongst those. I am against motion smoothing. This is not motion smoothing, but, your brain could perceive it in a similar way of, like, this frame interpolation. I don't know how Tom Cruise necessarily will feel about this film, and considering how fervently he was against that style of visuals attacking you. But yeah, I don't know. So that's something to be aware of. If you want to be as far away from something that could look like how a soap opera kind of looks. This looks a lot better than a soap opera, let's be very clear. But, like, you know, that's something, I guess, keep that in mind. But definitely see it in 3D, because, like, come on, it's Avatar. You gotta go in 3D. And I feel like go for the HFR as well. Give James Cameron another new visual thing to explore. Why not? Let it happen. Even if your brain doesn't agree with it. Open yourself up to the experience.
I remember going in, like, I was driving on my way, and I was like, there's part of me that's like, am I gonna get motion sick from this movie? And honestly, that kind of made me more excited. I was like, oh, this is like a big old experience. Like, you know, it's fun, it's exciting. It's
rarely is it that I feel like I'm not advanced enough as a human to fully appreciate the movie that I'm watching. Like, it's like, you know when they talk about, like, the whale creature, where it's like, oh, it has, like, more synapses in its brain or whatever. I'm like, during that scene, I was thinking, like, man, I wish I was like this thing. Because then the high frame rate would just be completely natural to me. Oh, jeez.
Oh, okay, so we haven't even talked about, like, any of that stuff. Like, it has, like, the giant brain, and it has its own little unobtainium. That's not even, like, a plot point. Which I think is, like, kind of beautiful in, like, its symbolism of, unobtainium, this eternal youth thing, by the way. Eternal...
Stops the process of human aging,
Stops it. Like, doesn't even slow it down. It stops, period. It's like, oh yeah, that's just a money thing. Doesn't really matter. They just want it for money. Anyway, let's move on. Like, sure, they're probably gonna do that. Like, that's set up for later, presumably. But I think as of right now, it really is just money. Is like their driving goal of being on Pandora. They don't really care about any of it other than, like, let's get money and live here, and so that we can have easier access to this money.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think Miles even says something like, oh, so that's what this is all about, huh? You know, because, like, for him, it doesn't even matter to him, because for him, it's just a very personal, like, revenge type experience thing. Yeah. He doesn't care about whatever
that was what it was the first time.
Right, and nobody really does care about it, but it's like, literally, because if you're thinking, like, well, why are humans back in the first place? Is it because of the unobtainium? Is it because no, it's because of this, and you don't find out until, like, 2 hours into the movie or whatever, just kind of, like, tossed offhandedly, because it doesn't really matter, like, and I love how it's from the perspective of, like, unlike the first movie where you're starting from that human world, so to speak, so you have that set up right from the beginning. Here, like, you wouldn't have that, so it's just very backgrounded. So it's like, oh, way later you find out what it is that this is even about, because it doesn't matter. It's so, like, pointless, and the pointlessness of it is represented through how it is inserted into the structure of the film's narrative. Which is just kind of ingenious. Yeah. Yep. Jinx. Yeah. Oh, man. This is crazy. But yeah, I do think you're right. I think it is setting something up. Anti-aging,
something clone, something child,
something your identity, something you know, well, something the kids are not gonna age, something I don't know. Whatever, something. It'll be interesting, whatever it is, because, like, there's a lot this is leaving on the table for where it can go next. Because I guess the main arc that Jake sort of has is, like, he felt like he needed to take refuge, but no, the family is the fortress, and he's gotta protect it. He's gotta, like, vow to, like, fight, and he's gotta, like, be back in it. He can't, no more hiding. He's out there, and he opens his eyes, much like
he opened his eyes at the end. Oh my god! Movie. Like when it starts, like, closing in on his face, it's like, oh,
you know, it's the last shot.
Yeah,
you know, that's it. Know. Yeah, but it means something different, because in the first one it was like, you are in this opening your eyes here represents that you are now in this Na'vi body fully. You have stopped being an Avatar and are now, like, fully a Na'vi. But here it's more just like it's more of an internal thing of, like, he is ready to face the threat head on, so to speak. So it was kind of cool how they recontextualized that.
I'm done running.
He's done running. He sees us. Yeah, they had I See You come. I See You truly is the I'll be back of this franchise because they bring it back.
And you know what?
Here in new
I
content.
See You. It got me a few times. Like, he's like, I see you, my son. I was like, oh my.
Oh, he sees him. He sees him. Because that's all you're waiting for the whole movie. There's all these familial connections, and often they aren't, seeing each other. Miles and his son, certainly, they're resisting seeing each other in many different ways. Like, there's a lot of conflict of, should they protect each other? Should they not? Do they care about each other? Do they not? I actually thought that Spider was going to stay with him at the end. I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, it felt like they were kind of building him up to be like the inverse of, they all were like, oh, we found the Na'vi and now we want to stay with the Na'vi. Like, he'd be like, oh, I was born with the Na'vi, but I want to be with these humans.
Yeah, I kind of thought that's where it was going.
So I was also surprised that he left to go back.
He swam on back. Yeah. He was like, hey, Neytiri, and Neytiri then killed him as soon as he came back. I was really shocked. He's just dead now. No, I mean, I feel like that's a little bit of tension that needs to be unpacked, wouldn't you say? Or it's gonna be like, oh yeah, no, I mean, I wasn't really gonna kill you. I was willing to slice your chest, but like, I wasn't gonna kill you. You're not family to me, but I wasn't gonna kill you. Like, how's that conversation gonna go? Yikes. That's some juicy stuff. There's unfinished business there. I'm excited. It's a satisfying conclusion, but man, I'm excited because I also, even when they were leaving from Miles, when like he got his family back, and Miles was just like, oh, you're gonna run away. You're not gonna fight me. Whatever he was saying, and then Jake was like, let's finish this, and they started fighting. I was like, oh,
yeah.
I didn't realize we were gonna get like the 1v1 fight. Let's go. Yeah.
And then the giant ship does a Titanic.
The ship does a
and
Titanic.
I was like, oh my god, James Cameron
crossover
made Titanic to practice for this scene.
Crossover event of the century. The Titanic. Oh, it's so funny. James Cameron really does have his hyper-specific interests, huh? He loves when the ship sinks. He loves the flooding. He loves it.
He loves it when there's water.
You think he already would have had enough of it. He did that. He did The Abyss. Nope. He made The Way of Water. That's all about water. He was like, you know what? I know I made the highest grossing film of all time. Needs more water. He followed up. He
7.8.
Exactly. IGN reference.
That is an IGN reference. I'm shocked that even you get it as a non.
I was laying you up for it. For it. Come on.
I'm surprised that even you that you were setting it up. I wasn't even thinking about it.
Listen, I may not be the video game motion smoothing expert that you are, but I know my fair share of facts. Whew. So
the Crab Mechs.
The Crab Mechs.
Come on, the Crab Mechs.
The Crab Mechs.
You were thinking it.
We were all thinking it. So what do we think going forward? What was Norm the father?
I feel
yeah.
No.
I
feel like it can't
because
be.
they were telling us. Yeah, he can't be. Yeah.
Oh, he's looking at her with flirty eyes.
I felt like that was more a joke of like they have very limited video log footage and they've like seen that a bunch of times. So they're like, oh, maybe it's him. And also, of course, they know him because he's like still around.
Yeah.
It was really funny.
You're like, well, there's like 10 named characters here, and it's one of them probably. So
the interactions between the kids always just felt so authentic. Like it was really,
Yeah.
Unknown names.
I will say, like, seeing Norm for the first time, I was like, oh my god, it's Norm again.
Norm! You kind of forget how much you love that guy. He's just a little guy.
Yeah.
He's fun. He's cool. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of have a dark Pixar theory about the father.
Oh no, I'm excited.
And I say dark Pixar theory as a meme. I know this is not a Pixar film, but because I was also thinking,
but with its heavy emphasis on elements, maybe you would be tricked into thinking it was, but it's actually a 20th century film.
Pictures. 20th century pictures.
Yeah, not 20th century Fox.
Don't even say that word. Don't even say it. Yeah, I was kind of thinking, because how many options really are there when you get right down
There's like
to
a 5.
Like, and which one would be the most interesting, you know? And there was something about, because we don't see a whole ton of, obviously we get more of the human stuff in the first movie, because like Jake is still kind of transitioning into that world, but we don't see a ton of what's happening in the other half at all time. And like Jake, you know, he's easing in, and maybe isn't like fully immersed in the relationship that's developing with Neytiri. I guess you see where I'm going with this. Maybe it's Jake. Maybe what if it was Jake, Michael? Is there a chance? Like, I mean,
think there's a large chance.
Like, it would be really sad. It'd be kind of, I mean, listen, it'd be really upset. It's a pretty upsetting thing to think about our hero doing, because he already was keeping a lot from Neytiri just by virtue of the entire point of the mission, how he was giving the military information like the whole time, like to also keep this from her. But I guess, you know, the not justification, but like the reasoning for it was that, yeah, he wasn't fully taking seriously everything that he was coming across at that point. If there was just something, you know, something that happened, and you know, maybe he's kind of out of it, he's not really getting sleep, he's constantly waking up between the two worlds, you know, in a moment of ill judgment. They were getting closer. She was liking, I noticed while rewatching the first movie, there's kind of a parallel between his relationship with Grace and his relationship with Neytiri. Because both, it's like women in his life that are like, you're stupid, and then they start to like him, you know? It's both that, and they're both teaching him about the Na'vi world. Like, Grace obviously is not a Na'vi, but, you know, they serve similar functions.
I feel like maybe she doesn't have a father.
Okay, it could just be that.
Like, yeah. No, like, not even like, oh, he's gone, or like he's dead, and it's just an unnamed character, but like straight up, like,
Immaculate Conception.
Yeah, something like that. Like I don't know,
yeah.
Awa or some of the clone nonsense, like, kind of brought into her, or maybe like the whale juice, something like that. I don't know.
It would be a big Ray, you came from nothing, you're no one, which I'm all for that. I'm all for them doing that and sticking to it this time, if they could dare.
Yeah.
Like,
I guess this is what you get when you consistently have the same director planned out.
Yeah, exactly.
Although I would love to see a Rian Johnson Avatar. Like, let's be real, come on.
Oh my goodness. Blanc needs to show up in the next film. Now, who could it be?
Now, I know that there's only 5 people that the father could potentially be.
This mystery has confounded me like no other! I don't know. It could be that. It just, they feel like they're setting something up. Like the way Grace seemed to be concerned when she was confronted with the question. I don't know. There's something.
We are going to finally get a movie that is going to have a more iconic I Am Your Father scene than Star Wars. Yeah. Believe it.
That's the other thing. Believe it. That's the other thing I realized about this movie. Like, I know we're in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where we get 300 films a week. Not even to mention the shows.
Or the holiday specials.
Or the holiday specials, the special presentations. Like, there's just so much. But it's weirdly rare to have this blockbuster film series where you get a sequel every couple of years, and you know, you kind of have like at least something of a guarantee that it will be coming, and they're able to tell this larger scale story that you'll see continue a few years from now. That's the other reason you're getting those Star Wars sequel vibes. There isn't a lot that gives you that experience. I guess I gotta watch Fast and the Furious if I want to try to get something like this. But, you know, like Marvel Cinematic Universe, obviously there's continuity and characters that carry over and developments and such, but very oftentimes it's more just, it's building out this world, and you're not always following the same characters, like movie to movie. So this is, I was kind of struck by that. I don't know if you were thinking about that at all too, but I was kind of struck by that watching this. Like, this is sort of a return to the classic.
It did feel like a piece of a saga instead of like a sequel,
right? Like it's like this expanding thing, and you're like, oh, I need to check back in on this once we like have the privilege of finally getting it again.
Which is why
it feels special.
There's such a giant time skip, and there's like so many characters. They're like this movie was so, like, dense.
Yeah.
In everything. There was not really a whole lot of it that was like, we'll get to that later. You know, like, it felt like I know that there's some of that, obviously. But it did feel like just something that we can chew on for, like, however many years they want to take. Even if it is just 2.
We'll see. I'm bracing myself. I've experienced the delays before.
I've experienced the delays before, and I'm kind of expecting them. And honestly, that's part of the charm.
It's hard to say now that King Disney is here, Big Disney.
Yeah,
like,
I have been thinking, would it have come out in 2022 if Disney didn't buy it? But, you know, it came out and it was awesome. And the visuals,
I just love the idea of, and we've talked about this before as well, where it's like James Cameron, he's working on it for so many years. And, like, movie theaters, you know, they keep, like, the overall, like, grosses, like, keep going up. Like, 2019 is, like, the biggest worldwide gross of any year at the box office, stuff like that. It keeps going and going and going. And he keeps delaying the movie. And then we hit the pandemic. And then James is like, I'm done. I'm ready. Here it is. And they're like, James, you couldn't have done this just a little earlier. No, but, like, it kind of is at the perfect time. Because it is sort of, I don't want to say MCU fatigue. I'm still watching everything the MCU does. Let me be very clear.
It's hard not to, like,
Still
compare
enjoying
it to the MCU.
It's in the conversation. Like, let's be real. Like, James Cameron made it part of the conversation. I got the Ant-Man Quantumania trailer before this.
I got the Ant-Man trailer too, and I did not get the Guardians trailer, and I was kind of upset because I was wanting to see that on a big screen.
I was wanting to see the Guardians trailer as well, and then I realized, I guess they're going to focus on Ant-Man for now, because I was like, they're not going to do 2 Marvel trailers. They're going to do the Marvel movie coming more soon. I don't know.
But I will say, I got the Mario movie trailer, and
so did I.
As someone who, like, is insanely
in 3D
excited for it, and who got emotional over it, like, just on a repeat viewing, like, on my phone, like, cuddling in bed. That scene where, like, Peach is like, oh, there's a bunch of universes and a lot of galaxies to save. It's like, whoa! I felt overstimulated because, like, my theater was super loud when that happened, but, like, in the best way. It's like, wow, like, this theater is, like, the music and just having this bright, like, thing look at me, like, it is physically, like, taking out the tears of my body.
Listen, if we're talking trailers that were attached to this movie,
I didn't get it.
You didn't get Greta Gerwig's Barbie?
I didn't. I was upset. I was, like, waiting for it. I got stupid dumb Oppenheimer, but I didn't get Greta Gerwig's Barbie. I was hoping we'd get to watch it afterwards, but whatever.
Oh, we'll watch it.
Yeah, we'll watch it. Maybe we'll have a road to Barbie.
It's actually hilarious because there was a certain film that you brought up earlier in this podcast, and I thought you were kind of doing a little wink to the Barbie trailer, but I guess you were going to be thrilled when you find out what movie that the trailer is referencing. Just you wait.
Oh my god.
Oh, wow. Whew. Yeah, I mean, like,
I waited. The trailer was out this morning, and I was like, I'm gonna see that in IMAX, and I didn't. So
I would have complained to the movie theater. I would have been like, where was the Barbie trailer?
Every time a new trailer started, I was like, oh, this is the Barbie trailer. But anyway,
what's great too is that the last thing I'll say is that
we'll have a trailer talk podcast in like a decade or so.
Because I kept waiting for the Barbie movie trailer, and when the Barbie movie trailer started, let's just say I didn't think it was the Barbie movie trailer at first. It took a second. Whew.
You thought it was Oppenheimer.
Yeah, of course. The recognizable Oppenheimer visuals. Anyone would know. Anyone in the world. Everyone knows the characters of Oppenheimer. Everyone. Just like they know the Avatar character.
Just like they know that. Yeah, okay. Name an Avatar character, Brian. Can you name an Avatar? Can you name a single line of dialogue?
Oh man, if only we had said some over the course of this conversation.
If only we said some over the course of this conversation. Speaking of a line of dialogue, outstanding. That hyped me up.
Oh, when Miles said it?
When Miles said it. Jake said it when he was like on Pandora for the first time.
Yeah.
And Miles' clone said it when he was on Pandora for the first time. It's like,
again,
whoa.
The parallels. What are they setting up with Will Miles be #redeemed? Can he be redeemed? This isn't technically Miles. It's not the same guy.
I feel like
he tries to be the same guy.
And I feel like they kind of sort of set it up. But even so, I think like I think that the parallel that they were kind of going for with them both saying outstanding is like, no matter what the plan was to get onto this planet, whether it was to mine it, whether it was to destroy it, whether it was to live on it, is that they are all like so flabbergasted at the beauty,
wow,
untouched from mechanical destruction.
That's a beautiful way to put it. No, I mean, protagonist meets our antagonist. They're equally opposing forces in that way. There's something really beautiful about that. No, I thought that was just such a great... Because even aside from that, it was just really cool because it was reminding you of just like how determined he is. Because usually in that sort of scene where you have a higher level person informing you of the danger and that you have to do it the hard way, there's going to be a character who'll be like, oh boy. But Miles is just so down for it. He's like, let's do it.
Yeah.
He's a crazy guy.
Yeah, when
Spider
or at least
he
was
feels
like
he needs to
kids can do this. And he's like, did Jake's do it the hard way? And he's like, what do you think? He's like, okay. And he just runs over.
Yeah. Yeah, he just jumps. He gets an impromptu flying lesson. You're supposed to bind the mouth. He didn't know. It's really crazy. Because the whole time you feel like he's trying to perform a little bit as Miles. He's trying to reach that level. But the thing that makes him waver is the presence of his son. I don't know. I keep going back to him, Michael. I really love it. Do you have... Okay, who is your... If you had to pick a favorite character... Do you have a favorite character?
If I had to pick a favorite character right now...
Yeah.
I would probably say Loak.
Okay.
He just really stood out.
Yeah.
To me. But also that's because I'm a sucker for the whale scene.
Yeah, the whale scene is great.
I mean, the whale as well, I guess. Would be like second character, maybe.
He was cool.
Kiri is up there.
Kiri is great.
I was kind of like nervous. I was like, okay, they're just doing the sequel thing where they add a bunch of kids. But then all the kids are like amazing. So, you know, it worked out.
Listen, he did the same thing in Terminator 2. He added a kid. He had John Connor. It's pretty... Just add some kids. Oops, more kids. Just do it. It seems to work. Look, Loak, he's a cool guy. She met a boy, Michael. She met a boy.
She met a boy.
He's carrying on the legacy, but he's doing it in his own way.
She's carrying on the legacy of Sigourney Weaver, of Grace. Carrying on the... Yeah, okay. We get it.
Okay. Yeah.
You're not on Kansas anymore.
He said it!
He did say it.
That's one of my favorite lines in movie history. And of course it comes from Avatar, not The Wizard of Oz.
Well, I was gonna say, like, now it's more famous for Avatar. At least
it's actually hilarious.
For the next little bit of months.
Because the way he says it, it reminded me of, because I was watching Avatar behind the scenes from the Blu-ray earlier, and they talked about how in the first movie, there's the part when, like, Neytiri, like, first, like, sort of takes out Jake's light that he has for when they first meet, and, like, that's the first time that he sort of is able to see the bioluminescence. It goes from, like, the dark to the bioluminescence, and they compared it to, it's like in Wizard of Oz when we go to color. That's what we were kind of going for with this. So that was, like, sort of a Wizard of Oz tip of the hat in that sense, but, of course, Avatar's most famous and overt tip of the hat is, with this Kansas line, which to me sort of felt like it wasn't, the standard thing where it's just like, we're going to reference that line from the first movie. To me, it had that shade of Miles is trying
That's
to
exactly
be
what I was about to say.
Yeah. Yep. Right? Like, okay, it's not just me making you think this,
actually.
Right? Did you think that when watching the movie?
Not when
or am
watching
I just
the
making
movie.
You think? Okay, yeah.
But, like, looking back with that, like, in mind, it's like, oh, yeah,
A lot of it's through expressions.
It's
because it's like he'll be a little afraid in ways that the old Miles was never showed the fear. Like when he looks at the arrows or he looks at like and then he has to and it's the same thing with the skull crushing scene where like it's at first that sense of like longing and like, oh my gosh, what happened here? And then no, it has to be rage. I gotta be the guy. What a performance!
Like
what a
it's
character.
a perfect blend of nostalgia while also making it relevant to the story.
Stephen Lang, you're welcome on the podcast anytime. We waited so long. I feel vindicated in this. You know, everyone's like, oh, you know, Top Gun Maverick. Yeah, Top Gun Maverick was really good. I liked this better.
I mean, I liked this better too. There was, I did kind of think Top Gun Maverick a little bit when watching it.
Because it is that similar thing, right? Of like, I guess it is a legacy sequel at this point because it's been so long.
Yeah.
A legacy sequel to an action movie. And, you know, it's a little bit of passing the torch. Like, you know, Maverick is more just like surrogate son. But, like, yeah, it's this simple family-ish story that's just this fun action piece. And it's a great movie.
And there's a scene where our hero is getting chased down by a giant thing that's about to hit them. But then off screen, something comes in and gets it. And it's like, whoa!
Let's go! No, but I've seen that happen in so many movies, Michael. This movie's just so predictable. Oh,
it's just like The Little Mermaid. Because there's water and they're out of water sometimes.
It's just some pretty pictures. I can't believe you all are hyping up so just pretty pictures, and that's it. There's nothing to be engaged with here. No emotion. Just pretty Shut up! Cartoons. I don't... I am so sick of this argument. It is so basic. At least do yourself the favor of rewatching the original movie or watching this movie. But you know what? The people that are committed to this cynicism, it's not going to turn them. If you are absolutely devoted to hating Avatar, and that has become part of your personality in the same way that Miles is close.
I was literally about to make this joke too. You're gonna say, "Oh my god!"
That then you're going to be like mine. You're gonna crush the 3D glasses in your hand.
Yeah, I feel like we are clones of each other at this point.
Yeah. Oh, geez, I guess so. But, like, it is not just that it's pretty pictures. There are so many movies that have pretty pictures that I don't care about. I don't care. I need some characters to latch onto. And there's a lot in the way of just showing us these characters and making us care about them. Yeah, it's a simple story. Yeah, it's not... very, very simple. The Sky People come back. We gotta go away. We learn the way of the water. We have a battle. You know? I mean, that's basically... But a lot of things are set up. And I feel the experience. There's a difference between a pretty picture and an engrossing experience. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. You can go on Google and just Google pretty pictures. But
yeah, you could do that for free.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to the movie theater. But like, yeah, and I think I texted this to you right before you went to see the movie. Because it's that argument of like, oh, great visuals don't make for a great movie. And it's like, yeah, I agree. A great movie makes for a great movie.
A great movie makes for a great movie. And also, maybe visuals help in a visual medium.
Yeah, who'd have thunk?
Who would have thunk?
No, it's just using those pesky visuals. Just so surface level. Nothing else to it. My goodness. We've seen... How many underwater worlds have we seen? That... Or actually, I take that back. How many underwater worlds have we not seen? Because they're so dark and murky!
They are so dark and murky.
Colorful.
Like I will say, like, yeah. When I saw Wakanda Forever and they had the underwater scene, and it's like, yeah. Whoa, this is really pretty. And then I was like, But this is making me more excited for Way of Water, because I know I'm actually going to see that one.
I enjoyed Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. It was obviously the best Marvel movie of this year.
Yeah, listen, Wakanda Forever is great.
But during that sequence, I couldn't help but think, man, what are they doing here? At least they had a different approach, because that one, it was supposed to be like shrouded in secrecy or whatever, so I guess that's sort of where then the darkness is coming from. And it was cool, but I couldn't help but think, man, I want to look at the Avatar The Way of Water.
Same.
Give me the Way of Water. That's what I want to see. And they showed me the way. They showed me the way throughout this movie.
One thing that I love about this movie is, like, in the first one, you have some human sequences where it's like, yeah, they're kind of like going back and forth. And, like, we all know, like, sure, the human sequences were, like, good for, like, the story. Yeah. But, like, nobody was excited to go back to the human sequences. You know,
and that's the
each
point.
time Jake, like, went to sleep, no, everyone was like, oh, I liked being on Pandora. But this
and that's
movie,
how Jake is supposed to feel. Yeah,
this movie is just Pandora.
It's
It's
just
awesome. Like,
Yeah.
I remember, I was like, okay, surely the budget can't afford for, like, the entire 3-hour movie to be on Pandora, but guess what? It does.
And that is a little bit of the concern, right? Because you're like, oh man, do they need... And they did, like I said at the beginning of this, they do need that human element present. And that's here, like, even before there's a threat, that's, like, in his family, like, that is a concern. That's something that them we're talking about, because there is this divide that shouldn't be a divide, you know, even between, you know, the different, like within this alien world, there are these differences of, like, oh, look at their tails, pathetic, you know.
Yeah.
There are a lot of these divisions that we set up for ourselves, but yeah, like, they found a way to, whereas, yeah, the first movie it's this clean story, front to back. You enter into this world and then you don't want to leave. This one also, sequels have a really hard time telling a story that's as clean, but I think this kind of embraced that aspect by letting it be an ensemble film and letting us follow a bunch of different threads while still hanging its hat on a simple driving force of those sky people are back.
Listen, I'm not like the smartest moviegoer out there. I'm just gonna say that right now.
Well, no one is.
But even I was able to understand, like, this movie and all the sci-fi and new world elements. Like, I watched the Matrix movies last year.
Oh yeah, talk about this, please.
The first one is awesome, no complaints there.
Of course.
But then the second and the third one, like, try to build out this whole world. And it's like, it's confusing. It's like, I don't really care about this world. I don't really care about any of these people that we're meeting that are, like, powerful or whatever. It's just pretty boring. You know?
What is the main thing? What's the thing that you hate the most? Tell us, Michael.
I hate the Council of Exposition. And you know the one. You know the one.
Yeah.
Where there's, like, a group of people and they're like, you broke the rules.
Yeah. Yep.
This movie, like, honestly, even if it did have a Council of Exposition, I probably would have been so sucked into the world that I would have enjoyed it. But it didn't even have that! Unless you count Jake's narration in the first 5 minutes of the movie. But that's not a council, that's a person. Well, there's always been narration.
That was, yes. Jake has been podcasting since the first movie.
I mean, he's been vlogging since the first movie.
He has been vlogging. They call it video logging, but it's vlogging, let's be real.
Yeah, we know. Come on.
And now, he doesn't have the video log anymore, so I guess it is a podcast. It's a spiritual podcast. Through AWA.
Okay, but they did take a picture in the movie.
iTree Radio.
They take that family picture where it's like, come on! The timer's
that was so funny.
I was funny. Like, it's like, whoa.
Again, the bringing together of the human and Na'vi elements, where you're just like... They're taking a picture.
It feels like the opening of a sitcom, you know? Which goes into the theme of feeling like you're binging a season. Oh my god.
Because I honestly, at first, when they were doing it, when they were like all getting together, I was like, okay, they're obviously making it seem like they're taking a picture right now, but like, it must be one of those things where it's just like, it's an allegory.
Like a painting.
Taking a picture. Yeah, like a painting. But no, it's just they're taking, because of course they can. They have the technology. They have way more advanced technology. So yeah, they just take a picture. Oh,
they have AirPods.
Goodness. They have AirPods. Yeah. There are rules that are set up. It's not a council of exposition, but, you know, at no point do they go into, like, a dark room and sit in some chairs and are like, okay, listen, you have been doing bad things. Let us explain. And it's not like that's inherently bad. You know, all of us love watching Senate discussions. We watch them all the time. That's what everybody loves the most.
And here's the smartest person in the world, Mr. Fantastic. It's me. Exactly. I'm on the council.
Jeez. That's the best thing that movie had going for it too, huh? Wah wah. Yeah, no, there's just discussions. But it's discussions between families. And, you know, when that other dad, like, gets mad, he was down with a lot. The chief of the reef people, he was just willing to, like, go along with a ton of this, but at a certain point, he just couldn't take it anymore. And you were like, oh, shoot. They made him upset. you went too far. But they didn't go too far. They just were going outside of the realm of what was considered acceptable. Defending this whale! How could they? But, it meant something when you earned his ire. It wasn't just like some random seat on an exposition council.
Yeah.
You're like, who is this? Why do we care?
Yeah,
No,
you're like, who
this
is
guy,
this?
like,
they dump exposition on you, and then they're never relevant again. It's like, oh, they really is just a council exposition.
Like, this guy was the one that let them be, because this was the guy that Jake knew they'd be able to have on. It was his wife that they were a little worried about. It's harder to please. So
I will say, when I rewatched the first movie in theaters in 3D, when they did the Avatar 3D re-release in theaters a few months ago.
Yes.
When I went to see it. They like reference these people like in the movie. They're like, we got all the clans together. We got the Water Clan. And I was like, whoa! We're gonna see them! They're tying it together, Brian. They're tying it together.
I love so much when you take what seems like just a throwaway line from an early movie that maybe wasn't even meant to set anything up, and you turn it into a setup. Like how Toy Story is like, the Buzz Lightyear is available at all Al's Toy Barn outlets in the Tri-County area, and then we go to Al's Toy Barn. How cool is that? Come on! Why not take something and turn it into a payoff? Make a setup. Do that stuff. Oh, man. That's what's so exciting, that you could find those. It's a challenge, but it's an exciting challenge for a sequel to have to embrace some of that stuff. Well, okay. I mean, we're going to be talking about this movie for a very long time. But is there anything else that we want to make sure that we say on this Road to Avatar 2 concluding episode?
The concluding episode. Well, I mean, hop into the Avatar Vision car and rev it up for the Road to Avatar 3.
Yeah. Let's be very clear. Yeah, because we're at the end of the Road to Avatar 2. But the Avatar sequels road, I mean, it's a highway.
Yeah.
There are a lot of different lanes.
It's a long highway.
We're gonna be switching lanes, going to all of them. We don't know exactly how many lanes that there are going to be until we get on.
Yeah, we don't know how many stops. We don't know how many
stops.
Detours. We don't know how many Disney Plus specials we will see.
But we'll be right there.
We don't know how many extended edition. They can make an extended edition of this 3-hour movie, and I'll happily watch it.
Yeah, the more fun stuff edition.
Yeah.
Put that out next December.
We get to go from like these 24 frame per second scenes to these 48 frames per second scenes underwater to like a 2 frame per second unfinished Hulk scene. It's gonna be awesome.
I love the idea of them taking a 3-hour and 15-minute movie and being like, yeah, let's give you an extended edition.
It's gonna happen. You know what's gonna happen.
Oh, man. Because I was looking at, again, in the behind-the-scenes documentaries for the first one, it was like, they cut out, I don't know if it was like 40 minutes or something from the first one, because they were like, it was long. And I was like, you have no idea. You basically made one. Because it's like 40 minutes longer this time, right? Like, pretty much. Close to it. Oh, there was something else that came up in the documentary. Oh, yeah. They were talking about the motion capture, like, and how cool it was. Because it was actually really interesting. Because, again, keep in mind this is from, like, when they're making the movie in the mid-2000s. Like, they're filming these segments. And they're talking about how there's all this discussion about performance capture. And if it's, like, eliminating the need for actors. Like, is it taking, like, actors' jobs away? In the same way that we kind of have these conversations now about, like, you know, de-aging or like, particularly, I mean, not even de-aging as much as when you have a deceased actor that then you recreate through CGI. Like, that's what it is now. But back then, they were just saying this about performance capture, but it was like, no, they were trying to explain how it's like digital makeup, and it's not like it's inhibiting you, but it's like allowing you to do so much more. And that's what Sigourney Weaver was explaining. She was like, I feel like I could do so many things. I feel I could like play any character, like any age. And I was like, whoa!
Oh my god, why not turn it into a payoff?
In that, yes, why not? He paid off the behind-the-scenes documentary on disc 2. Oh my
on
goodness.
Disc 2, everyone.
Disc 2. Obviously, we really enjoyed the movie. Hopefully, whether or not you enjoyed it, you enjoyed us talking about it.
I'm sure you
because,
did.
like, it is. We have a lot of passion for this.
And
which
don't worry,
apparently-
whenever there's like a screenplay or something out and we can like go through the movie, an hour and 40 minutes is what you'll be begging for. When we have the like director's cut edition of this podcast.
There's just so much here, and it's funny that defending the highest grossing movie of all time is a calling that we feel like we had to have, but that's where we are.
And Brian,
yeah,
we have to remember that Avatar: The Way of Water is nothing compared to Avatar 4, which quote unquote goes nuts. Avatar 3 was kind of boring, TBH, but Avatar 4 goes nuts. No notes.
There were no notes. No notes.
Watching this movie, I was like, how? How is it gonna go nuts? If this, what is this? Is this a peanut?
What is he gonna do? What is like? What did he write on
James
the page?
or Jake Sully is dead in 4. Like, come on, like Jake Sully and Neytiri are dying in 4.
I'm just curious how he put it together. Did he do like, because for the first one, you can see this on disc 3. They have the script mint, not the script, not the treatment, the script mint that James Cameron put together, where you could just scroll through all of it, and it's like occasionally it's a treatment, but occasionally you get some lines of dialogue that are in there, and it's very detailed. But like, did he just go through this whole script mint and was like, mic drop? And just everyone was slack-jawed? Like, what is gonna... Oh, man. The mind runs wild at the possibilities of what James Cameron's cooked up this time. What did he do, that guy? Oh, boy.
We'll say there's a large team on this movie. That's right, I stayed for the credits.
I stayed for all the credits. I was the only person who stayed through the end.
There was a handful of people that stayed at my theater. But you can...
Everybody left.
You could tell that they were, like, disappointed when there wasn't a post-credit scene.
No, yeah. Well, oh, you didn't get a post-credit scene? I got a post-credit scene.
Well, I got a scene where he was, like, dancing with some whale, but, you know.
I got James Cameron saying, "Thank you, you can now go to the bathroom."
Did you actually?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I said that so sincerely, and I was like, why? I don't believe this.
I was like, Michael, have you met me?
I will say,
I'm bringing some of the irony back that the Road to Avatar 2 is based on.
The movie started, and I was like, where's the director intro? Top Gun had it. Incredibles had it. I want Avatar to have one.
It's been a while since they've had, and we've gone on the record being like, these are annoying, just start the movie. But I think James Cameron is just he's such a character, and I want to see him. You know,
Avatar just feels like such a weird thing. You know, like I was at the theater and I was like, why are all these people here? I thought they hated this movie.
I know, like, especially like I see there's like an older woman that comes, there's a couple that comes, and there's a father and his son. I was like, wow, like these are the only other people here, but in this early morning random showing in a theater that had many showings throughout the day in many different formats. But like even just that little microcosm, so many different types of people that were coming up to this, you know?
Yeah, the person
and then me, the random adult.
Mom, and the person next to her was her daughter, and her daughter was like younger than this movie took to make.
Yeah. Well, I guess that does. There is one other thing that we should maybe touch on. What's the box office?
Oh, the box office.
Yeah. What do we think?
Okay, what was my number? I had a very specific number.
Let's get the numbers, because we wrote down numbers.
We wrote down predictions
a few days ago,
and I do actually have a few thoughts about this, because like I feel like this movie, it's more specific. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's weirder, and I'm trying to imagine like normal mainstream audiences like coming out and being like, you gotta see this movie in 3D high frame rate, and I feel like I can't imagine that super well. I feel like it's less of a. Not that the first movie was a feel-good movie.
A crowd pleaser.
It was more of a crowd pleaser, yeah.
More mass appeal, more like, hey, we can take you on this journey, you get it. This one is like...
shorter.
Listen, you want to spend an hour with some whales? You know, like, it's like...
Yeah, this one is... Like, the first movie, you have to have seen. right? Like, there is
Yeah.
homework, and it's longer, and it's less crowd pleasing. It's more niche, which
You're willing to give yourself over to the experience. Like, if
Yeah.
you would enjoy watching, like, something that just sort of is this more visceral thing. Not that there isn't a storyline as well and characters to be attached to, but, like, you kind of got to go with it. It's not going to just be like, bing, bang, boom, you're out of here. And here's a post-credits teaser. Like, it doesn't do that.
Yeah. Like, it and also, like, for as many showings as there were at my theater, there wasn't, like, that many. Like, there was a handful of screenings that started, like, between 6 and 7. There was, like, 5 of them. But, like, it isn't like you can go in, like, Marvel movie weekend where it's like, okay, every 15 minutes there's another screening.
Yeah. So you had said, so I have your number here.
I actually have it as well. But
oh, okay. Then you say it.
I said this a few days ago.
Yep.
And by the way, we were recording this, like, the night of December 16th. So this was before the numbers started coming in. And I preface this by saying, before the numbers start coming in, my guess is that Avatar: The Way of Water will make $1,742,208,200. There's a few reasons for this number. Originally, I was going to say 1.3, actually. But then I saw the early, like, reactions / reviews, and I was like, okay, let's bump it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because originally it was right underneath Top Gun. And honestly, I still feel in my heart that it's going to be underneath Top Gun at the end.
Really? Wow.
But,
yeah,
I don't know. I'm feeling good about a 1.7. Because it's like, it's close-ish to 2 billion, but not like, 2 billion. But anyway, there's also a bunch of 2s in there that I threw in, because this is the second one. And I was like, yeah, make it silly.
So I'm very close to your number. I
was shocked at how close you were when you were like, oh, come on. Not even 2 billion?
Yeah, but I thought more about it because it's you have to take into account how few movies hit that $2 billion mark, and
yeah,
it is harder to do it now now that the pandemic has occurred.
Yeah,
and,
we need to remember that
thing.
Spider-Man: No Way Home, like the most insane, biggest movie of the last while, did not make it.
Yeah, just barely missed it. So here's what I said. I said that it would make $1,852,306,995 at the worldwide box office. And I said that because I think it will just barely beat Titanic's original worldwide gross before re-release. Because before its re-release, Titanic had made $1.84 billion. If you look it up now, it's like over $2.2 billion. But at the time, before it was re-released in 3D, that's where it was at. And I don't know, I think there's just something potent about that. I feel like,
especially after watching the movie, and it's like, oh, it has like a mini Titanic in there.
Yeah,
the movie exactly. Titanic is shoved into this other bigger movie. Yeah. Sort of like how Luke was shoved into the whale, and you got to see his backstory.
I wish more backstories where you get shoved into a whale.
Yeah, this is your backstory.
This is your backstory. That's a reference to a deleted song from Phineas and Ferb. So
much like Avatar... how we're going to get deleted scenes from Avatar: The Way of Water.
Exactly, it all ties together. Yeah, I don't know, because what is the number that James Cameron said that this needs to make in order to
I can't remember. I couldn't tell exactly how serious he was being, or if he was kind of overestimating, just to make a point at how much it needed to make.
It apparently, how much does it need to make? Because he said it needs to be one of the highest grossing movies ever.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm seeing at least it seems like it needs to be somewhere between 2.08 and 2.05 billion to break even. What? Oh, jeez.
And you watch it and you're like, oh, yeah. It feels like that, too.
That is insane. Listen, don't let a Divergent thing happen here. Don't let them cancel it before he gets to make all the movies.
They have
let him make all the movies. Yeah.
At the very least, they're going to want to shill the park.
It's true.
They might cut the budget, but They'll still make them.
But I don't want everyone to be like, ha! See, James Cameron? You wasted your time. Nobody likes Avatar. And then he goes, oh, I guess I'll quit. No! No, we need to protect the boy!
Yeah, he'll go into his, like, $68 million home and be like...
No! He'll go into his submarine!
He'll go to his submarine and then break the record for being in the lowest point on Earth. Just to make a point of how he's feeling low.
I don't want that to happen to this rich man! No! It can't be!
This rich white man can't be sad.
He can't be sad. He's trying to solve climate change with his movie. That's what he said. He was saying about it, like, oh, you know, like, people are sick of these climate change messages or whatever. Look, it's not just about saying that there's a problem. We need to start giving the solution. He implied that his Avatar sequels will give the solution to climate change. We're gonna not let him finish his solution to climate change? Come on. Oh. It's more than just a movie. It is our ticket to salvation, not Terminator salvation that James Cameron was not very involved with. No. Our salvation as a species. Oh. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I will say, when you told me that you were planning on seeing this, like, today, it felt so magical. Because for a while I was like, oh, Brian's not going to be able to see it for a while because you're kind of more scarce and going into the theater. Especially on, like, a big opening day.
Yeah.
But, because this has been our thing. We, like, I talk to my friends about Avatar, you know, but most of them are like, yeah, sure, you don't really care. I know you don't really care. I know you're lying. But Brian, he knows.
Right.
He knows. They all called me a madman.
Oh.
Except for Brian.
I couldn't miss it.
But yeah, like, when he was like, oh yeah, I'm seeing it on Friday, December 16th. I was like, oh my god, we both get to see it. Like, the same day. The last time this happened was when we saw Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker.
Oh.
At the same, like, time, because I remember I got out of the theater and you texted me, what was that?
I immediately was like, it's so because I'm a pretty positive person, if you couldn't tell. But that movie managed to accomplish me walking out of it and being like, I didn't like that. I had specific moments during and of course, like, you know, the Rey being a Palpatine and so many other things. Like, we're just literally, my heart sank in the theater. I was like, wow, so rare. I usually keep an open mind. I need the whole movie to finish before I could really know for sure how I felt about it. I give the benefit of the doubt. But that's just one of those things where it's like, this sucks. So, thankfully, we cleansed that experience.
We cleansed it.
With this.
But yeah, there's another, like, Avatar Star Wars parallel for you. We sort of almost overlapped in watching it, despite being a long distance away.
December releases. 3 years later, Disney finally put out another big December blockbuster sequel thing. Oh, man.
Yeah, because Sony stole it from them last year.
Yeah. It really is so funny, because it's like, we hit on, like, there's people are just now starting to be like, oh, some of these Marvel movies, I'm getting a little tired of it. And Star Wars doesn't have movies anymore. Because for a while in the 2010s, it was like, man, when is Disney even going to release this? They got their Star Wars, they got their Marvel, come on. Listen. And then here it came. Avatar: The Way of Water. It was, oh, jeez. We're back. We're back.
We're back. Avatar is back. Finally back.
Well, I look forward to going on this highway to however many more Avatar sequels can be afforded.
Yeah, and we will have many hours of box office discussion regarding this movie, I'm sure.
Yes. But that brings to a close the 2-hour episode, the 2-hour series finale of Avatar 2.
This movie is the sequel to the highest grossing film ever.
Yeah.
Like, Avengers Endgame briefly had that title, and it's had movies after it, but this is, like, the sequel. You know, like, Far From Home or whatever technically took place after Endgame, but this is, like, the sequel to Avatar. You know, like, it feels much more direct. I don't know. Like, it's insane to me. This is the sequel to the highest grossing film of all time. Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to wrap my mind around the fact that I've seen this movie. I've watched it. In the past tense. I have seen this movie today. That's a quote from Brian from earlier today when I asked, "Are you still seeing it today?" And he said, "I'm seeing it. I have already seen it."
I said, "No, I have seen it.
Yeah.
I see you. I see you.
I see you, Brian."
So that brings to a close our 2-hour episode on Avatar 2, The Road to Avatar 2, double-length episode. That's right, twice the length of a normal episode. Actually, maybe a little bit more than that. Yeah.
Yeah, way longer than that.
Yeah. But I just wanted to get another 2 in there.
If you start listening to this, as you hit play on Avatar The Way of Water, we're almost getting to the water.
Yeah, we're almost there.
We're almost at the whale. We're almost at the water.
The full family is still alive. Oh, boy. Okay. Well, Take care, everyone.
Yeah. Fun times to be had on Pandora.
We see you.
We see